Guys, what's up? How's it going? It's John, Gamester81. This video, I wanted to review the Analogue NT NES clone. It just hit the market recently. I've had this about 2 weeks now as of doing this video. I didn't want to just dive right into the video. I wanted an opportunity to get my feet wet and really experience the system. This is by far the most advanced NES clone to hit the market. But it's also by far the most expensive. To give you an example, this particular model retails for $450 US. And I know a lot of you guys are thinking right now, and you guys would be right to think this, that wow, that's a lot of money. Certainly is. So the reason for this video isn't to necessarily sell you on the system and tell you to go out and buy it. But what I like to do is do an unbiased review on it, and you guys can form your own opinion about this particular system, and you can form your own opinion if it's worth it or not. It can do quite a bit, as you would expect for that particular price tag. There's 3 versions of the system available. This is the gray, kind of, it's got a very nice matte finish to it. This particular version retails for $450. There's a black version that retails for $500, so it's $50 more. They also have a limited edition gold version that's limited to 10. It's 24 karat gold, so literally it's gold, and that retails for $5,000. That's been sold out. I didn't want to purchase that version for this review. I don't have that type of money, but I did want to buy the system and kind of show you it. I was very curious about it. HD NES clones are not necessarily new to the market. They range, and there's various versions out in the market by different manufacturers. I own pretty much every version of the HD NES clone system out in the market right now. They vary in prices from $50 on the low end to obviously the higher end, which is this. So in the future video, I will do a comparison video. So I encourage you guys to subscribe. If you are not already subscribed, please subscribe and stay tuned. That video will be out soon. But back into the Analogue NT system, it can play both NES games. It can also has a slot for, as you can see on the top here, it can also play Famicom games. It has been jailbroken. I'll explain what that means more in this video, what I mean by jailbroken. So basically you can play other systems on this console as well, which is really sweet. So here it comes with a nice case. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do an unboxing video for you. I'm gonna show you some gameplay. I'm gonna show you all the different features this thing can include. At the very end of the video, I'm gonna share with you my personal opinion and thoughts about the system. Please leave a comment below. Please subscribe. Thank you for liking this video, and let's do an unboxing. So first thing first, here is the box it comes with, and this actually slides off like so. This is where the system will lie on. This foam piece comes off, and you have this insert here, comes off. And you have various adapters here for your AC adapter. So this can play both PAL games and NTSC. So it's region free, and you have all these wall adapters for various countries and all that good stuff, very odd shaped ones. This is your adapter this is your cord for the controller it comes with. Let me show you the controller. So it's the 8-bit-do controller. I did a review on these recently, actually earlier this past year. These things retail for about 40 bucks, 30 to 40 bucks. It is a Bluetooth wireless controller. To turn on, hit start for 3 seconds, and the blue light will start blinking. When it's synced, it will be turned into a solid blue light. It also comes with a receiver, which is here. So you can see it has 4 controller ports. When you turn on the system, this thing powers red, and then eventually turns into blue. So it's basically lets you know it's powered on. When you plug this in, it's plugged in, and you turn on the receiver, this thing's still going to blink even if the system's off. And so you have to remember to turn off the controller as well separately. There are hotkey buttons. So I'll explain how that works later in the video, where you can actually boot on and off the system using the controller, kind of like modern consoles, which is pretty sweet. 4 controller ports. This is your port for the NES. This is Famicom. I'll show you kind of how it plugs into NES game plugs into it. It's actually pretty loose. So if the game isn't clean, I've noticed that if you wiggle it, it will crash the game on some games if the game's not clean. Not that I'm not necessarily wiggling the game while I'm playing it, not that you would necessarily do that. So it's not a huge deal, but it is kind of sensitive to games. So you got to make sure that your games are absolutely clean when playing it, because some games you'll have to clean off before you'll be able to read it. You cannot plug both. Well, technically, you could plug both Famicom games and NES games at the same time, but it will not boot. You have to do one or the other. So just keep that in mind. On the side, you can see the nice matte finish. Because it's got a matte finish, though, you'll notice that it will scratch easily. So you got to be very, very careful that it doesn't scratch. But it doesn't have really nice. It doesn't have a firm grip, which is nice, because I know a lot of NES clones will have a really firm grip. This thing actually comes out really nicely, so that's definitely a plus. This is where the SD card slot will go. This is for upgrades. You can actually load ROMs on here. You can load palettes. That's what that would be for right there. This is the power adapter would plug in here. You get a USB adapter here, and this is basically for your 8-bit controller. You can actually, it's got USB, so you can charge it. It does run off of batteries. It lasts about 20 hours, which is pretty significant. And this is your power on and off button. Here is just different connections. This is for an extension to the Famicom. You have a microphone here for the Famicom, which is sweet. You have also various connections here. You can hook up to a monitor, and here's where your HD connection is. So pretty advanced, and I can tell you it's pretty solid. It weighs quite a bit for a smaller system. They did come out with an Analogue NT one. This is actually the Mini, so this is I think like 20 or 30% smaller than the original one. So it is smaller than the first model. See the bottom, it's got this nice little clear plastic here. You can kind of see it. So the attention to detail, the craftsmanship, it's pretty amazing. It's pretty awesome, as you would expect for a higher end console. Okay, so without any further ado, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some gameplay, and then after that, I'm going to do a conclusion video, show you my thoughts. When you turn the Analogue NT Mini, this is the menu. You have the run cart. You can do Famicom or NES, of course. You can't do both at the same time, or one or the other. There's cores. So this thing has been jailbroken, meaning the programmer actually enabled this thing to read ROMs from other platforms, including the Sega Master System, the Game Gear, and ColecoVision currently. I'm sure Game Boy and MSX, I'm sure those will be coming soon. So this thing can play more than just NES games, which is a huge benefit. Here's also some various menu options. You can actually set hotkeys to your controller, so you can basically turn the power of the system on and off through the controller based on how you map the controller. You can also go back to the menu. So there's a lot of different customizations you can do in this game. I'll explain later in this video how the audio settings and the video settings get really, really detailed, and it's crazy what you can do and customize. The EDID stands for Extended Display ID Data. You can enable that, or you can disable it. Right now it's currently disabled. Here's the LED. You can do the DVI, which is the connection to a monitor. You can set that. You can set how you want to boot the system, where it goes. So again, a lot of customizations. Oh, you can even change the sprites. So you can do 16 sprites. So some NES games will flicker. When 8 sprites, you can customize to 16, and it won't flicker as much if there's a lot of sprites on the screen. So right now what I'm going to show you is comparable to the HD to standard. So let's take a closer look. So as you can see in here, it's a pretty significant difference between the 1080p HD and the standard definition, which of course the NES would display the standard. So I'm going to go and run a game here. You can see how quick it just runs. I'm going to play Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, the arcade game. This is one of my favorite beat 'em ups for the system, based on, of course, the classic Konami game. Always like to play as Donatello. He's one of my favorite characters, and he's got the best weapon in this game anyway. This is how it would display and look without any adjustments. So if you turn on the system, this is how the thing works. It displays. You can hit the hotkey buttons and go back to this menu here. You can actually burn or dump the ROM. So whatever game you have, there's actually 200 mappers in here. And if you kind of do some research and pick the right one, of course. But if you have a really unique game and you don't want to ruin the card, you actually can dump the ROM. So again, because this thing was jailbroken, you can actually dump the ROM, meaning you can save it onto an SD card and play it later on and save your cart, which is pretty sweet. There is a cheat code here. It's a Game Genie. Again, you have to research the codes on what those codes are. It's pretty simple. Google search. Now, the AVS, which is also an HD NES clone, those Game Genie codes are provided. That's not a huge deal that they're not provided in this system. I don't think anyway, because most people have access to their phone or computer where they can actually Google search Game Genie codes for NES. it'll pop up really easy. And this particular code I'm putting in is unlimited lives. When I first got the system, the Game Genie code system was not working. Basically, this was not working. So what I was able to do was go online. I was able to patch the system through the SD card. So I think that's a good perk about having the SD card slot. You're able to patch some things that maybe weren't working initially, but now it is not any issues anymore. So you can't really tell, but if I were to die, the rest would remain at 2. So you can add other games. You also go to settings here, and I'm going to show you some video settings. You can change the resolution, go to 480, which still through the HDMI doesn't look too bad. 720, a subtle difference, definitely 1080p is the ideal way to display it. I haven't noticed any lag. I know a lot of people were, and I was kind of curious myself, would there be a lot of lag? You can change the height of the position. You can actually change the vertical position as well when you're on 5 times. You can see how I'm stretching it out a little bit. Oh, actually, I'm actually raising a little bit and lowering it a little bit, actually. You can see that. That's kind of interesting. I prefer for the 5 times. Width and position, I can actually shrink the screen down a little bit. I can actually widen it as well. You can see that I can do it by quite a bit. I can either go full screen here or not. These settings really are, I guess, are for people who are hardcore NES fans who want a perfect position. I'm changing the horizontal here. I can kind of angle it. See the difference. There's also select ones as well. You can stretch it. Those are preset options there. I can crop it so I can take away some of the borders from left, right, or top or bottom. I guess I suppose on what TV you're using, on if you want to crop it and make it look better. Scaling, there's a lot of presets here. You can set the scaling. This is actually kind of make it look a little bit more smooth through graphics. HQ 2 times or 2x. Scale 2 times, scale 3 times. So you can look how smooth the graphics look. It's pretty incredible. It kind of gets rid of the blocks, the pixel graphics. I actually enjoy the pixel work though when it comes to NES, and that's kind of the charm of playing a classic system. Here's it 3 times. It just looks really solid. Other systems can do this as well, including the Retron 5 and others. Here's the X-ray. This is kind of interesting. Not sure why you'd want to choose X-ray, but it's there. Kind of a unique setting. I'll show you the other scaling here. This one's actually probably my favorite because it's not over the top. I think when you get to too many scale, I think it kind of looks kind of washed out a little bit. But not bad. So scan lines, you can do the original scan lines, which I think makes it look like it's on a monitor, which I think looks pretty cool. Like you can do this on the Retron 5 as well. You can even do this on the AVS, but this has got a lot more options. So you can do 2 times scans. Three times. Now you can definitely start seeing the lines. Four times. And 5 times. You can also do the depth of each scan line, which you can't do in other HD consoles for the NES. You can get rid of them completely, or you can just make them really, really thick. To the point where it's almost too over the top. Doesn't look terrible, but definitely a little too much. I think the original scan line probably looked the best in my personal opinion. I'm curious what you guys think. Looks the best visually. We're going to turn them back on. You can set the standard, so you can do PAL or NTSC, analog. You can change the composite settings, all this. RGB mode. A lot of different connections, of course. PAL, this is kind of cool. This is probably one of my favorite features. So it changes the color a little bit on the screen. Black and white. I think this looks really, probably one of my favorite settings. Black and white. I think that looks really, really sweet. Very unique. You do play choice 10, so like if we were to play on the arcade, well, it's super bright. I own a play choice 10. I don't ever remember it being looking that bright. Beware, a lot more blue to it. Blue definitely pops out. And you can actually load a custom palette, and that you just need to put in your SD card in. So we'll keep it on here for now. Resolution, showed you all that before. Let's go to audio, show you different volumes. So this is kind of different volume scaling and whatnot. So many different options, and it just so many subtle things, but if you keep changing one way or the other, it does make a big difference in the sound. Start seeing that the audio is changing slightly with all these adjustments. Now do panning, same kind of thing. You can just change all these different settings, and it just makes it sound a little bit different with panning. So you can mess around with these different scaling and panning options. Here's the audio features. This is definitely one that changes it the most, in my opinion. Definitely recognizable. You have to make sure, though, I do want to tell you, you have to pause it before you go to this menu. Because if you just go to open menu, it doesn't pause the game, you gotta pause the actual in the game. Just FYI. Do the cartridge audio volume, the microphone. Here's just expansion chips that they have. For example, Castlevania 3 has a special chip, so you can add that, which is neat. Now I'm going to show you the cores, how those look. First core I'm going to show you is for the NES and Famicom. I have a lot of ROMs on my SD card for this particular platform, and it literally took about 10 minutes for it to load, because I have so many ROMs. So if you have a flash cart, that's definitely the most fast way to do it. But those flash carts can get pricey, upwards to $150 or more. So I'll show you a game here, just a random game. We'll pick one. Once you're in the file, though, it definitely loads the ROMs really quick. I'll show you TNC Surf design. See how quick it loads. You can change the settings and stuff just like you could with the cart as well. You can change the audio and video and you know, add the different scaling and palettes. So that's pretty sweet. When you want to switch cores, it's very simple. You just go back and just select the core you want to choose. For this case, it's Sega Master System. But it does take about a minute. It's got to reboot and kind of clear it out, the FPGA. And in this case, I've got a lot of ROMs for the Sega Master System as well. I'm going to highlight a few here. Street Fighter 2. This only came out in Brazil, so it's a really rare game for the Sega Master System, so it's definitely a benefit of having this. And it loads great. Sega Master System wasn't huge in North America. It was pretty big in Europe and definitely in Brazil. In fact, longest running system of all time in Brazil. I believe they're still selling them in Brazil. This port, obviously, for Street Fighter 2 isn't great. It's 8 bits, so you can't really expect too much. And you're playing with 2 buttons, so the controls are not that great. But the fact that they ported Street Fighter 2 to the Sega Master System is pretty incredible. They also ported Mortal Kombat 1 and 2 to the Master System as well. Those were available in North America. A lot of the games that you'll find for the Game Gear were actually Master System ports. Very similar hardware between Game Gear and Sega Master System. Just didn't do very well in North America because Nintendo had such a huge stronghold on the console market. I'm missing a few characters, of course. Got 8. Ryu.
Round 1. Fight.
And I'm terrible at this. And it seems like it's hard to get the commands right, so doing the fireball is really impossible to do. You can see you can scale it. I'll show you another game here real quick. One that I recommend for the system if you have a Sega Master System. I actually own this game here I'm about to show you, and I actually own Street Fighter 2, physical copy. This is Golden Axe Warrior, so it's part of the Golden Axe series, but this is a totally unique game in the series, and this is basically a Zelda clone. So if you like Zelda, the original Zelda, this is one to definitely check out. If you like Golden Axe, this is one to check out. A lot more colorful than the NES. Sega's problem was they didn't have the third-party licenses that Nintendo had. The game selection wasn't nearly as good. You can see what I mean by the Zelda clone now. Show you the Game Gear now. I got the core loader for Game Gear. I enjoyed my Game Gear growing up. The battery life was not as good, obviously, as the Game Boy, but let's check NBA Jam. This game was huge back in the day. It's so much fun. They actually released, on a side note, they just released a ROM hack for the Super Nintendo where they have updated 2017 roster, which is sweet. Just Google it. It's called NBA Jam 2K17, I believe. That's pretty funny. I was not a huge fan of the Game Gear port. You had to use the start for the turbo button, and which I come to find out that's an issue with this particular game because using the wireless Bluetooth 8-bit controller, if you hold down start for 3 seconds, it turns off the controller. So I'm using the wrong controller for this because I came to find that out playing this. I'll show you a more traditional Game Gear game that a lot of you guys will recognize. Sonic the Hedgehog, which is different than the Genesis port. It's more true to the Sega Master System version of the game. Still classic, though. X-ray. I did notice that a lot of these cores, though, you don't have the audio and video settings adjustments that you can do to the extent that you can do the NES core. That's a huge deal. Just want to show you the different scaling. That looks really solid, though. Honestly, it looks great. It sounds awesome. Like I said, we'll do to ColecoVision, show you how quickly it loads, right, boom. So ColecoVision doesn't load too slowly, opposed to the other ones. Most ColecoVision games work great. I noticed a lot of the homebrew ROMs I have don't work, interesting enough. Like, it just scales off a little bit. But I'll show you Donkey Kong. Because the controller, ColecoVision controller has a whole numerical buttons. Obviously don't have that with this Nintendo controller, so there's different mappings and stuff. Kind of interesting. Still looks great though, in HD. Never thought I would play ColecoVision in HD, and here I am, playing it. Pretty sweet. You also play Atom ROMs. So Atom was a computer that Coleco released. Different settings here, I'm showing you. Next game I'm going to show you in the ColecoVision is Smurf Rescue Gargamel's Castle. This is actually one of my earliest memories of playing video games was this game right here for the ColecoVision. I owned the ColecoVision before I owned the NES. It came out before the NES. But super fond of this game and love it. It's awesome. Very simple looking back on it. But to jump you have to push up, which is kind of awkward. But nonetheless, a great game. One of my fond memories of playing this game. It's crazy. The different scaling. And I never understood why at the very top you have this energy bar that depletes over time. So your time limit. This game does get progressively harder and harder as well. See the volume, see what I was saying about the panning and volume. It's still, you can do quite a bit, just not the same as NES because the panning and all that, the audio isn't as good for this system as it was for the NES, of course. That's why. So now I'm going to share with you guys my conclusion, overall thoughts about the Analogue NT Mini. So in conclusion, what do I think about the Analogue NT system? Well, I think it's got a lot of cool perks and benefits. You think about the jailbreaking and the fact that you can play other games and ROMs. It's like having a built-in flash cart into the system, which is definitely a huge benefit because those flash cards can cost upwards to $100 or more each. So right there, definitely adds some value to the system. It is a hefty price tag considering the AVS HD system, which I reviewed earlier by Retro USB, is about $180, so it's less than half the cost of this. And what's the difference between that and this version though is this will play in 1080p, opposed to other HD NES clones will play only in 720p. Not a huge significant difference in quality, picture quality, to be honest with you. However, this can do a lot more. So the way, kind of the best analogy I can give this is kind of like the Porsche or the higher end car of NES clones. This is definitely something that's going to be limited. I'm not quite sure the market for people paying that much for this particular system, $450, because that's a lot more than what modern consoles cost, to be honest with you, as you guys know, and most of you guys know. So basically, if you're a diehard NES fan, this is a system to definitely check out. If you're a casual NES player and you don't really care about all the adjustments of the audio and video, you're probably better off getting a different HD NES. You can either pay $50 or $180 or get a Retron 5 and play multiple consoles in HD. So overall, I think because it's FPGA, it's I know Kevtrist, who is in the Atari Age community, he's the one actually who programmed this and did the FPGA board, and he spent thousands of hours on this. He's genius, and he's very talented, and the craftsmanship is unbelievable. So they definitely don't cut corners as far as build quality goes. It doesn't cut corners as far as what it can do. You pay a hefty price and you get quite a bit from it. So my personal opinion is if you're a diehard NES fan, definitely check it out. If you're a more casual NES fan, retro fan, this is probably a system to pass on. But it is very interesting, and I'm personally happy I own it. And this is how I will be playing my NES games moving forward personally. Thank you for watching, guys. Please leave a comment below. I'm curious to hear what your guys' thoughts on this particular system is. Thanks so much. We'll see you guys soon. Take care, and of course, game on.